I never thought the woman I planned to marry would ask me something so insane, so out of line, that it made me question everything we had built together. We were sitting on the couch after dinner, just talking about wedding venues and guest lists, when she suddenly looked me in the eye and said it. I want to stay with you, but I need to sleep with my ex just one more time, for closure. My heart stopped. I laughed at first, thinking it was some kind of twisted joke. But she wasn't smiling. She was serious. Dead serious. And in that moment I realized that maybe I didn't really know her at all. We had been together for 3 years. We'd survived long distance, financial struggles, even the loss of her mother. I supported her through every storm, stood by her during the darkest nights. And now, just months before our wedding, she was asking permission to betray me. One last time. For the sake of emotional peace? I felt numb. Disrespected. Used. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply looked at her and said, "Take all the closure you want." She thought I was being mature about it. She thought I'd wait around like a fool. But what she didn't expect was that I had other plans. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd use in this context, her father's. I calmly told him everything. And then I gave him the address. What happened next wasn't just shocking, it completely flipped the script on her little closure plan. And the look on her face, when the door opened, when her father stepped into that apartment, was something I'll never forget. Because that was the moment she realized the consequences were real. To understand how things got this messy, you'd have to know a bit about Rachel, my fiancée. She wasn't always like this. When we first met, she was kind, grounded, and nothing like the woman who sat across from me that night asking for a final night with her ex. Back then, she had just gotten out of a long, toxic relationship. She told me she was done with drama, that she was ready for someone stable. And for a long time, I believed her. We moved in together after a year. We built a home. She even helped me through a tough surgery and stayed up all night by my side. So yeah, I thought she was my person. But lately, things started feeling off. She'd become distant. Her phone was suddenly on silent more often. She made excuses to stay out later, blamed work stress, or said she was just tired. I tried to trust her, to chalk it up to wedding stress. But deep down, I think I knew something wasn't right. I just didn't want to admit it. Then came that night, when she finally said the quiet part out loud. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. Like it was logical. Like it was something I should understand and accept. I kept wondering, how long had she been planning it? Was she already in touch with him behind my back? Had she convinced herself that I'd be okay with it if she labeled it closure? And her father, he adored her. Always called her his little girl. The last thing he'd ever expect was to walk in and see her making choices like this. But I knew one thing for sure, once he saw the truth, everything would change. When I hung up the phone after speaking to her dad, a mix of emotions swirled in my chest, anger, betrayal, and something else I couldn't quite place. Maybe sadness? Or disappointment. Rachel was in the shower then, humming like she hadn't just shattered the foundation of our relationship. She didn't know I had already sent the address. She didn't know what was coming. Meanwhile, her father had gone quiet on the phone. At first, he thought I was joking. But when I calmly repeated Rachel's words and gave him the location, something shifted in his voice. He didn't ask questions. He simply said, "I'm on my way." The weight of what I'd just set in motion started to hit me. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about her father seeing the truth for himself. About the image he had of his daughter crashing into reality. And maybe part of me wanted that. I needed someone else to understand how deeply she had betrayed me, not just emotionally, but with how calmly she expected me to accept it. In those quiet moments, memories came flooding back. Her dad had once pulled me aside and thanked me for being the man she finally deserved. He told me how he'd worried about the damage her ex had done to her, how controlling and manipulative he'd been. And now, the irony was unbearable. She was willingly going back, even for just one night. It made no sense. I kept thinking, was this really about closure? Or was she testing me? Maybe she never thought I'd have the guts to let her go through with it. Maybe she expected me to beg her to stay. But that's not who I am. And the more I sat with it, the more certain I became that this wasn't just a crack in our relationship, this was a full collapse. The hours moved slow after that. Rachel said she was going out for a walk to clear her head. I didn't ask where. I already knew. She grabbed her coat, kissed me on the cheek like it was just another night, and walked out. That kiss, cold, automatic, was the last piece of proof I needed. She was gone before I could even feel the door click shut. I sat there in silence, replaying everything in my mind. Her words. Her tone. That look in her eyes, like she was detached from the reality of what she was doing. As if this one last night was reasonable. I didn't follow her. I didn't call. I just waited. I knew her dad wouldn't be long. And when he arrived, I'd already texted him the exact apartment number. No emotion. Just facts. He didn't even knock when he came to my door. Just opened it, his face tight and pale. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't want this to be true. He kept asking, "Are you sure?" I didn't answer with words. I just nodded once. He took a deep breath, turned, and left. I didn't go with him. This was something he had to see for himself. As the minutes passed, I couldn't stop picturing it. Her dad pulling up to that familiar complex. Walking up those old steps. Recognizing the ex's car out front. And then the knock. The door opening. Her face when she saw who it was, not me, not her past, but her father standing there in disbelief. I imagined the moment stretching forever, her caught between the lie she told herself and the truth staring back at her. And in that exact moment, everything she thought she had under control was gone. I thought that would be the end of it, the moment her father saw the truth with his own eyes, and maybe, just maybe, she'd realize what she had destroyed. But what I didn't expect was what happened next. About an hour later, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it, expecting her dad. But instead, it was Rachel. Her hair was a mess, makeup smudged, eyes wide with panic. She didn't say a word, just stormed in and started pacing. "Why would you do that?" she finally snapped. "Why would you call him?" I didn't answer right away. I wanted to hear what she had to say first. I wanted to see if she'd admit what she'd done or twist it into something else. She stood in the middle of our living room, breathing heavily like she was the one who'd been betrayed. Then she dropped the second bomb. "He didn't just show up, he lost it. He punched my ex. The neighbors called the cops. There's a report. He might get charged." I froze. That wasn't part of the plan. I just wanted her dad to know the truth, not for things to spiral into chaos. She looked at me like I had set a trap, like I was the villain in her story now. But all I did was tell the truth. Her truth. And then she said it. "This changes everything. You don't know what you've done." In that moment, I realized the stakes weren't just emotional anymore, they were legal. Her dad, a respected community figure, might now face assault charges. And somehow, she was trying to pin the blame on me. The situation had spun out of control. And suddenly, it wasn't just a broken engagement. It was a mess that could destroy more than just our relationship. Would you like me to continue with the climax next? It will push the tension to its peak before we move toward the resolution. Let me know if you'd like it to end dramatically, emotionally, or with a twist. I looked at Rachel standing there, angry, defensive, trying to twist the story into something that made her the victim. But for the first time in a long while, I felt calm. Not because I wasn't hurt. I was. Deeply. But because I finally saw everything for what it really was. This wasn't about closure or a mistake or even love. It was about someone who couldn't let go of the past, and someone else, me, who deserved more than to be treated like a backup plan. "I didn't make that choice for you," I said quietly. You did. I just stopped covering for it. She looked away, like she didn't want to hear it. But I meant every word. Her father called me the next day. He wasn't mad at me. In fact, he apologized. Said he never thought he'd see that version of his daughter. He told me he'd handle whatever came next with the police, and thanked me for not keeping him in the dark. As for me, I moved out of our apartment within the week. I returned the ring to her mother's jewelry box, left a note saying I hoped she'd eventually find what she was looking for, but that it wouldn't be with me. The wedding was cancelled. I took time off work, stayed with my brother for a while, and started rebuilding, quietly, slowly. People always say relationships are built on trust, but I learned they're also defined by what happens when that trust breaks. Sometimes the person you love most is the one who teaches you your worth. And sometimes, walking away isn't weakness, it's the beginning of finally standing up for yourself. I didn't get the closure I thought I needed. But I got something better, clarity. And honestly, that was enough.